Today, we're going to examine the relationship between Oregon's forests and water quality. More specifically, we are going to take a look at the relationship between actively managed forests and water quality. The program is brought to you by the Oregon Forest Resources Institute. Who is OFRI? The Oregon Forest Resources Institute is a state agency. It was created by the state legislature in 1991. OFRI's mission is to improve public understanding of Oregon's forest resources and to encourage environmentally sound forest management. We do that through many programs, including K-12 education, landowner education, and through programs like this Speaker's Bureau, which allow OFRI to talk to a wide range of Oregonians about forest management. Water. It's a top concern for Oregonians. Oregonians rank water quality and fish habitat as their two top forestry concerns and have for decades. They know the importance of water to the region and have many different opinions as to its value, partly because water is in top demand. We demand a lot from our water. We expect it to be there for us for uses such as drinking water, fish habitat, recreation, irrigation, power generation, and a lot more. And more often than not, Oregon's water is forest water. In Oregon, most municipal water supply comes from our forests. If you take a drink in most of Oregon's population centers, that water passed through a forest. And it's a good thing. Forests produce cleaner water than any other land use, cleaner than rangeland, cleaner than agriculture, certainly cleaner than urban land use. Healthy forest soils provide natural filtration to keep streams and underground aquifers clean. Part of the reason for that is that careful stewardship by forest landowners and operators help keep water quality high. Maybe the best way to illustrate the water cycle and its relation to our forests is through this 90-second animation. This is part of an OFRI series called the Forest Fact Breaks. They're little vignettes that cover all kinds of forest issue topics. You can see more of these on the OFRI website, oregonforests.org.
Time for another Forest Fact Break, brought to you by the Oregon Forest Resources Institute. Today's topic? Water. More than 2/3 of the Earth is covered in water, something like 300 million trillion gallons of it. But only 3% of it is fresh water, and only a tiny fraction of that is available to drink. So what does clean drinking water have to do with Oregon forests? Let's take a look. Water from the ocean, rivers, and lakes evaporates and becomes clouds. Clouds bring that moisture inland and drop it on our forests. As the water reaches the forest floor, most of it is absorbed into the groundwater system. Healthy forest soils act like a giant filter, helping to clean water as it reaches the groundwater system. Forest soils help clean our water every single day, and unlike most filters, they never need replacing. Thanks, forest soils! Much of the water in Oregon's towns and cities comes from our forests, which means that getting water from the forest to our drinking fountains requires very little in the way of chemical treatment. There are all kinds of forests in Oregon, grown for a wide range of values. Water quality is a top concern for all forest lands. Oregon law requires that water resources be protected both on public and private forest land. So pour yourself a glass of water. It's what a healthy forest tastes like. And that's the story on forests and water. Check out more Forest Fact Breaks or visit OregonForest.org.
Yay, forests!
So what affects water quality in our forests? The answer is forest disturbance. Any forest disturbance affects water quality. That includes naturally occurring disturbance like flooding, landslides, and wildfire. But it also includes human-caused disturbance such as timber harvest, road construction, prescribed burning. Even recreation can play a role. Forest practices have always drawn attention to themselves for their relationship with water quality. Part of that is the lingering perception of old forestry practices. Let's look back 50 years. How was water quality protected during a forest operation? The answer is not much. There were no requirements to leave tree buffers along forest streams. The machinery was heavy and harsh. Trees were often skidded or dragged from steep slopes down to streams below, and improperly sited roads were built with little appreciation for their effects on forest streams and rivers. In the 1950s, there was very limited research on forest streams, and there came to be an obvious need to look into the effects of forest practices on water quality. Watershed research in Oregon began in the 1950s with what is known as the Elsie Watershed Study. The Elsie is a major watershed in the Coast Range west of Corvallis. The goal was to compare the effects of logging practices on multiple streams, of course, compared to a similar control stream in the same watershed. While the research progressed, the nation was beginning to pay more and more attention to the need for secure, clean water. We saw the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency and the Clean Water Act occurring during the tail end of the research. So what did the research find? Overall, what the research found was that there was a significant need for change in the way we operate in the woods, and particularly around forest streams. The results of this research directly affected the creation of a set of best practice guidelines for forest operations in Oregon. In 1971, the Oregon legislature enacted the Oregon Forest Practices Act. This was the first comprehensive statewide act of its kind in the nation. How did the Oregon Forest Practices Act change operations in the forest? It established a set of laws and rules that addressed the potential impacts of road construction and maintenance, logging practices, steam crossings, reforestation, pesticide use, and other forest practices. This is just a sample list. The entire Oregon Forest Practices Act is a very deep document that oversees almost every aspect of forest management practices in Oregon. The Oregon Forest Practices Act is an evolving set of laws. Although it was established in 1971, it has been updated over a dozen times since. New research, new technology, new methodology. All of these are taken into account to improve forest management and strive to protect our forest water quality. So what is the practical application of the Oregon Forest Practices Act? Here's just a few. Protection riparian zones. Stream buffers, as they're commonly called, are used to control temperature and sediment in forest streams. The size of the buffer varies depending on many factors, including the size of the stream and the fish-bearing potential of the stream. Improving forest roads. There are plenty of old roads out there in need of repair, but today's forest roads are built with new material and new engineering principles to control runoff and redirect water to controlled destinations. This keeps road runoff that contains sediment from running directly into streams and rivers, and instead redirects them to the forest floor. Lighter harvest practices. Hydraulic machinery that can cut single trees at a distance of 30 feet and skylines that carry trees up a steep slope with only minimal contact with the forest floor are two types of technology that are helping forest operations leave a lighter footprint on the forest floor. Mandatory reforestation. Reforestation is Oregon law. It's as simple as that. Successful reforestation is required of all harvest operations within 2 years of cutting. It not only makes our forests sustainable, it's also a very smart business practice for our forest landowners. And volunteer efforts by landowners. There are a lot of success stories out there of private forest landowners going above and beyond forest practice laws to improve stream health and fish and wildlife habitat. Here we see a family forest landowner installing a great new culvert to aid in fish passage. It wasn't required by the Oregon Forest Practices Act, but they were doing their part to improve their forest lands and improve their home watershed as a whole. Forest practices then and now couldn't be more different. During the original research, temperatures in streams near harvest sites could vary greatly. A year after the Elsie harvest of 1967, temperature in one stream increased by 20 degrees Fahrenheit. There were no buffers left along streams. In fact, in some cases, the streams were cleared of big wood, thinking they were a hindrance to young fish. Today, streams are not only protected, they're being improved. Buffers along streams. Large woody debris is being purposely placed in streams to aid in fish-rearing habitat. And current research shows that minimum temperature variation is occurring in most of our streams near harvest sites. A year after the 2009 harvest in the very same stream as the slide before, temperature in the stream increased by only 1 degree Fahrenheit. So how do we measure the effects of today's forest practices and the forest practices of tomorrow? The answer is ongoing research. There are currently 3 paired watershed studies going on in Oregon right now: Hinkle Creek Down in Douglas County, the Trask River Study, and the Alsea River Revisited Study, which is monitoring some of the very same streams of the original Alsea study and how the results are comparing a half a century later. Science leads the way as we look to the future of forest practices in Oregon. Today's research is helping inform and refine current forest practices under the Oregon Forest Practices Act. As great an asset forest research is for water quality, there are threats that supersede the best science. Currently, one of the biggest is conversion. Forest landowners often derive their income from their forest land. If they are not able to manage their land in a profitable manner, there is pressure for them to sell and convert the land to other uses: subdivisions, vineyards, commercial. For water quality, this is a big threat. Once a forest becomes a parking lot, its ability to protect water quality is severely diminished. So how can we sustain our water quality? One of the most important ways to assure high-quality water in the future is to keep private working forest lands as forests. Laws will change, forest practices will change, but so long as we keep working forest lands viable, our water is in good hands. Today, Oregon enjoys some of the finest water quality in the nation, thanks to our forests, our scientists, our landowners, and our forest operators. To find out more, please visit the Oregon Forest Resources Institute website, oregonforests.org.